Good afternoon, and welcome to our conversation with President Drake. My name is Andrew Jordan. I'm a manager for strategy and organizational effectiveness in the Department of Recreational Sports in the Office of Student Life, and I'm grateful to serve as the University Staff Advisory Chair for this year. USAC is an advisory body to university leadership, comprised of members from across the university, including our medical center and regional campuses. Our mission is to maintain an active and participatory line of communication with the university community and to provide a forum in which through staff can raise, discuss, and make recommendations that supports the university mission. This year, our committee has been focused on supporting staff through the university transformation. We strive to ensure staff perspective is considered in the decision-making process by serving on project steering committees, partnering with many groups, project teams, special interest groups, and much more across all of our campuses and medical center. We do our best to be good communicators, listening to the staff community, and providing feedback across all levels of the organization. Our mission has and will remain consistent, advocating on behalf of staff. In preparation for our conversation today, we collected responses from the staff community through an open survey, a half-day retreat USAC hosted with our regional staff advisory committees, strategic planning session at a USAC business meeting, as well as general feedback we have collected throughout the past few years. Based on the information collected, today's conversation has been categorized into themes. The themes include university strategic initiatives, university culture, and reflection questions as we celebrate our 150th year as an institution and the recent announcement of President Drake's retirement. The conversation today will be led by Stephen Laborick. Stephen is the Assistant Director of Pharmacy here at the Medical Center. Stephen is a second-year member on USAC and is currently serving on our Staff Compensation and Benefits Subcommittee. And now, I will turn things over to Stephen to get our time started with President Drake.
Thank you, Andrew. I'm honored to host this event today, and I'm pleased with the level of support and engagement from our senior leaders who've joined us for the conversation today. We find ourselves in an unprecedented time of change at the university, and the staff community is excited for the opportunity to hear your perspective and how these changes will impact them and how they can expect to benefit moving forward. As Andrew mentioned, USAC has solicited input from staff in various forums to help guide today's conversation. We've also reserved some time at the end for live questions from our audience here at the Wexner Medical Center. As we're nearing the middle of December, we'll soon find ourselves in the year 2020. It marks a historical year for the university with the transition to Workday, centralization of human resources, celebrating the sesquicentennial, the culmination of your 2020 vision, and the retirement of the 15th president of the Ohio State University. Dr. Drake, congratulations. It's a bittersweet moment for the staff community. Since 2014, you've been engaged with and supportive of the staff experience. Reflecting on the history of our institution going into the sesquicentennial, as well as your time serving as president, what do you see as our greatest accomplishments? And as you're leaving the university, what do you hope to be your legacy?
Great, nice to see everyone here. I like the concept. There are some empty seats in the back, but I noticed the first row is reserved. So that's a nice, it's a good balance of opportunity. I remember once going, a few jobs ago, I was a professor at a medical school, and I remember pulling in after hours to a parking area near, kind of between where my lab was and my clinic was. And it was 7 o'clock in the evening, something like that, and I pulled in to a place, and my wheel was, I had my own little parking area, and one of my wheels was over into an adjacent kind of reserved parking area, just like a wheel in. And it was 7 o'clock, it was a springtime evening, so it was still light when I was leaving. And I came out, and I had a ticket on my car because my wheel was over this line into this kind of, and next to me, there were maybe 30 empty parking spaces. And my car there by itself after hours. I found that annoying. I don't know. I find that annoying. This reminds me of that. I remember where I was then. I forgot your question. I do remember your question, and so I guess broadly, in my mind, I say the word transition rather than retirement. Retirement sounds like a utterly foreign word for some old person. It truly does. It doesn't resonate with me at all. It has no resonance for me, and so it's really a transition to a different phase. The working plans that take a little time to get things restraightened, but then I teach a course now. We would expand that a bit and teach another. I have a whole series of other things that I do broadly in healthcare, health sciences, and higher education. So those things would continue, and the day-to-day work in Bricker Hall would change, but it doesn't. So it sounds more like a transition, or feels more like a transition to me. And I had, a 30-year whatever career as a professor before beginning to focus mostly on administrative work, and I felt entirely engaged and busy during that time. So this would be more like that engagement was. So since I get to use the word, I would just
Perfect.
say it feels like a transition, and that takes away. It minimizes slightly the sweet, but not so much. It takes away a lot of the bitter part. And the bitter part is the sort of visceral challenge of leaving the 24/7, 365 engagement that Brenda and I've had with the university since we've been here. And when I say 24/7, 365, I mean that I think about it when I'm going to sleep at night. I think about it when I wake up in the morning, and when I'm walking or doing something, or we're here or there or whatever. There's always things that are rolling through, or a message that we're answering, or something that needs to be read. So it really doesn't go away. And then the reward to that level of engagement is to see the really amazing things that we are accomplishing as a community together. And so that's so rewarding. It's rewarding to be engaged with something as powerful and effective as our university on a regular basis, that the concept of not doing that is a strange concept. Let me back it up to 10 or 20 years ago. So I kind of look back to about being 18-ish when I became a dedicated pre-med. And so I've been floored with both feet on the accelerator. You're sort of heels up, toes pushing on the accelerator to get that extra little millimeter. Since then, never stopped that. So I don't know another way to do it. And so I'm interested in that from time to time, but also I have to let you know what that's like. So what about how's it gone? That's what you said. So legacy would be a word I wouldn't use. I don't know what that means. Again, that's sort of like it's a focus on the wrong thing. It's like a focus on a person, and it's not about a person, and it's also like an old thing again, like yuck. So if I talk about what we're doing as a university, what's special about us as a university, I don't know. I have this feeling, and I don't know how it is for our faculty, or our students, or our staff. How it feels for me. So I have my impression of what the university felt like before I arrived, before we came here. I worked in other universities, worked with people from this university, had a feeling about where we were and what we were doing. And I have the feeling about how it feels today. And I'd say they feel really they feel very different to me. But I don't know how that is for everyone else, or for someone who's been here all along, since I was looking from the outside and looking from the inside. What feels great from the current perspective is that our voice is so impactful in areas that matter so much to so many people. I'll just pick a couple for example. So one is we have a really great voice in higher education broadly, about where higher education should be going, the kinds of things, the values that higher education should lead. One that we've really focused on, is access, affordability, and excellence. And now, compared to, let's say, 10 years ago, just 2010 as a time, or 2000 or whatever, sometime in the past, the discussions that we're involved in about making college more affordable to more students, to having students graduate on time, to help to improve the quality of teaching and learning. We're involved in those discussions at levels that the discussions that are higher levels that are more focused than I'd ever heard them in my career, and we're then in the central organizing function for many of those discussions. So that's great. It's a great thing for our university to be representing what universities can do to create opportunity for students to move forward. So I think that's something that's terrific for us. We are a larger voice than we'd been in the past on things like staff equity. The role that we have in the $15 an hour pay initiative, for instance, is something that's extraordinary. We have staff voting at our academic senate, something that doesn't exist in other places. That staff aren't in the meetings for the academic senate most places. And then to be in the meetings and be a part of it and actually be voting members is something that's new, and that's terrific. You know, the Forbes magazine survey that we sent out that said that they surveyed people in organizations that employed at least 1,000 people across the country, so medium to large organizations across the country. I guess large to very large is a better way of saying, but at least 1,000 employees. And we ranked 4th out of the 500 organizations listed for the best place for new graduates to be employed. And that was, just to make sure it's clear, that was for-profit, not-for-profit, universities, government, whatever. We were 1, 2, 3, number 4. So first among the not-for-profit sector, first among universities, and 4th among all companies, with the Googles and GMs and everyone else as competitors. So we're saying it's a great place for people to work, so we're really pleased about that. We also have an interesting, something that I'm thinking about a lot these days, an interesting role in intercollegiate athletics. So there are lots of discussions around intercollegiate athletics, the things that, like the future of intercollegiate athletics, how should that be? And really no university has a larger voice in that than the Ohio State University, because we have this great mix between outstanding performance on the field and on the court, unparalleled, and then outstanding academic performance for our students. There are some universities whose students have mildly better academic performances, but they don't compete with us at all. There are universities that compete with us athletically, but their academic performance is not the same. And so we're able to, with a few others, have a very good voice in looking at the student-athlete experience and trying to maximize that. So those are things that I like a lot, things that I'm happy about. I'm extraordinarily pleased with the Buckeye Opportunity Program. I think that's a great thing and something that should have been the case, and I'm really pleased that we're able to do that. So I think that's wonderful. I'm very pleased about the University Institute for Teaching and Learning. I think that's a core competency that we should have. The Buckeye Opportunity Program is that if you're median income in Ohio or below, we neutralize your tuition, so it's effectively zero tuition for that half of the population. That's a great thing. Go Bucks. And the University Institute for Teaching and Learning is a program that now thousands of our faculty have taken advantage of, that is built on the premise that you can learn to teach better than just kind of doing it on your own. It's like learning to swim or learning to play golf or anything else you could just do. But there are people who've been doing it for a long time and thinking about how to teach you how to do that, and faculty, as a rule, never avail themselves of that opportunity. I have said this, maybe audience has heard, I'm proud of having in my past won teaching awards, great. I never had a minute's instruction on how to teach. And why, what the award was for, what it meant. It meant that students liked the class, but it didn't tell me that they'd learn more than they would have had I done it differently, or they learned more than the class next door that they didn't like as much. And I think that that's unfair. It's for our students. It's unfair for our students to be taught by people who haven't taught themselves how to teach. Doesn't mean that they're not excellent, but it also leaves open the opportunity that they could be a little bit better, perhaps. And I'd like everybody at least to try to make themselves, to understand that it's important to be your best, and that you're doing this for someone else, and that you owe it to them to try to make yourself your best. So I'm pleased that we left that in our wake. Last thing, I'm thrilled at the good kind of metrics, our graduation rates, our application rates, our acceptance rates, our diversity, the excellence of our students. All those things are the best they've ever been. Our faculty doing more research than ever in our 150-year history, more donor support. So all those things that we're here that kind of measure, gee, how well are you doing at a university? We're actually much better than we've ever been in the past, and among the very best in the history of the country. So that's good.
That's great.
I'll give a longer answer next time, but that was just a warm-up.
Excellent, excellent. You know, to your point, there have been so many incredible achievements under your leadership, and to your credit, you know, there's also so many things happening related to career roadmap, the enterprise project. There's physical environment changes happening on campus. I think the theme of the day at Ohio State today really is change. And so as you think about the change happening in your own life and acknowledging that staff are also going through changes as well, what advice do you have to staff and the university community to help them transform through this time?
So a couple things. One I wanted to mention before, is that when we mention all these different things that are working well, and we can go on, and that's really terrific, it's really the collective efforts of all the people here who are doing that. It's the things that you do. So we met, you were a student, and thinking about getting your training and then going and being able to apply that in a way that makes a difference. And so you got that training, you did internships and working in the summer and all that, and then finally put what you'd learned to sort of put it into effect in an actual daily working basis, and could then see the difference that it made, and see us being a better place because of that. And so that would be the case for just thousands and thousands of people across our enterprise. And this improvement that I feel is really the reflection of thousands of people working to make themselves better in their good enterprise. So I think that's maybe the summary of your first question. Yeah, time and change. You know, that's what the only thing that's constant is change, I guess, is the way. And particularly when we want to be the best we can be, we want to be at the cutting edge. The cutting edge whatever the cutting edge was yesterday is yesterday. So you have to continue moving if you're going to be there tomorrow. If you're going to be the future, you have to continue changing. So we want to be that change agent, moving ourselves forward. And my feeling about that is that having ourselves one of the great distinguishing features of human beings is that we can learn and we can apply new knowledge and we can do things differently, we can improve, and that's a thrill. We could do everything tomorrow and next week like we did it last week, but then we just find ourselves behind. So I guess it's calm if you do everything exactly the same all the time, but then it's pretty Groundhog Day, but it's pretty boring and not particularly interesting, and not really using our human capacity. The ability to be able to learn and to change something, I think, is tremendous. And I have a series of values that I did for an interview years ago, and one of them was intellectual curiosity, the interest in learning and doing new things, and I think that's good, and that's happening for us. With things like Career Roadmap and Workday, the things that are going on there, how I deal with those things is input where I can, and then trying to be flexible and adaptable and roll with it as I go forward, rather than to think about what's wrong with it and, oh my goodness, this could be worrisome. I think about, okay, how can we really make this work for us? I believe in the glass is about 97, 98% full, and that people who are doing these things are not doing them for the purpose of making my life or anyone's life miserable or making it harder for us to move forward, but are trying to do their best to help give us a better and improved environment. And not everything's perfect, but we can work with that and try and make ourselves better as we go forward.
I think that's great. I appreciate that mindset. I think that will help the entire staff community as we're faced with these challenges moving forward. As you think of one of our core values of being inclusive excellence, with all of this change happening, what are we doing to make sure that we are considering, diverse inputs to have an inclusive decision-making process as we progress through all of these changes?
Yeah, so one of a great strength, I believe, for us is our inclusiveness, that we can if you take the sort of breadth of humanity, there are great ideas across zip codes and regions and states and whatever, and from different communities. And as we can bring ourselves together and use the best ideas from all of us and work together collectively, sort of Statue of Liberty kind of mantra, then that makes us the best we can be. To tell a quick story. Quick story is from 1996. My wife was on a board. We lived in California. My wife was on a board, and because she was on the board, the organization was having a meeting, and they had a special dinner speaker. And it was August, I'm going to think, of 1996. When there was a camera on me, I want to make sure I remember my dates correctly. I think it was August of 96. And so the speaker came in, and it was a special speaker. It was a smallish room. Special speaker was Bill Clinton, and he was president at that time, and just come back from the 96 Olympics in Atlanta. And he was talking about the experience, and I believe this is going to be the experience of, it's either the opening or the closing ceremonies, and it works for either one. So let's pretend it was the opening ceremony, and where he just sort of set the Olympics in motion. And he said he was there, and the way that they do it is that the countries march in alphabetical order, and then the host country comes in at the end. And so they march in carrying their flag, and they have uniforms that are sort of traditional, and the flag is the flag. So Angola would march in, and Brazil, and Colombia, and Denmark, and Greece, and Mexico, and all the way through the alphabet. And he said what he noticed is the kind of colorfulness and artfulness of the costumes. So when the Angolan team marched in, they looked like Angolans, and the Brazilians marched in, and that was great. And that people sort of, you could see each country coming in one at a time like that, with all their things that were distinctive, and that was great. Well, I hope the whole world. And then to pause a bit, then the United States came in under one flag, and then he was choked up because he said then under one flag he saw the whole world reflected, that it wasn't people looking like they were from Angola or from Mexico or from China or from Denmark, but actually the whole world, side by side in one group together. And that he saw in that sort of the promise of this country and what we've done and why we are such leaders. So I remember that story and think a lot about the importance of inclusive excellence, about being our best, but about bringing everyone in together. What I'd say about it is that it's an actual challenge. The country is set up to benefit from this inclusive excellence in so many ways, but there are also forces that tend to separate people and distribute opportunity unequally. And if we are passive, then the forces that wish to distribute unequally, which are not so passive, will in fact have opportunity distributed unequally. And we can see you'll see vestiges of that as you drive home tonight, that there are places in town where there are unequal opportunities and where that was the case 10 years and 20 years and 50 years ago. And if we want that to be different 5 and 10 and 20 years in the future, we have to be intentional about that work. So I encourage that.
Great. You mentioned earlier the ranking put out by Forbes and Statista about being the number 4 workplace, which is an incredible achievement. As we think about moving forward in the changing workforce, one of the things that's very common today in many organizations is a flexible work environment. USAC has created a toolkit for staff to take advantage of the flexible work policy that we have here. And we're curious, what is your opinion as our leader on a flexible work environment, and how do we use that to help recruit and retain the next generation of staff?
I'm all in favor of flexible work environments where they are appropriate. There's some places where they're difficult. There's some times where they're difficult, and I understand that. But we have lots of traditional restrictions on things that we do that seem to be inefficient. I'll give a couple. One is that as a university, we're extremely active between the late August and May, and then we're really quiet over the summer, about 25% or so of the student body over the summer. So that doesn't seem to make sense to me. Why why make it that you work 3/4 of the year or 2/3 of the year fully intense, and then you take off the summer? It's fine. It's nice to have the idea of sort of detuning a bit. That feels great. But going from what we do down to having 2/3 of our activity stop on the campus as a whole, this doesn't seem so efficient. Here we are in a different building. We're in the hospital. Let's say we decide to do that here. Well, right when you chuckle because it would be ridiculous. Or if you were GM, you say, well, we're going to just not really, or whoever. I don't mean to, that's not an endorsement nor whatever. But whoever was manufacturing something, or you had a restaurant, you say, well, we're not going to really serve many meals between the first week in May and the third week in August. So we have that level of inefficiency. I also think about this. I don't know how this is going to work. We're kind of diurnal, but we have roads that are entirely congested during certain times of the day. Entirely congested. You can't get where you're going. Waste time and effort. And other times they're empty. So that strikes me also, that the flexibility would allow us to use the physical environment and resources we have to in a more efficient and effective way. So in general, I think flexibility is a good idea. We did something for summer. Instead of having block courses, we tried to go to 2, 4, 6 week blocks that could be combined together so you could flexibly put together different courses. Why would it be that every course fit into the same rough time period? Why is Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2 o'clock the best time for a course or whatever? So we want to be more flexible in our curriculum offerings as well, and we've offered some ways to do that. Plus, we've offered, of course, online courses that are desynchronous in the way they occur, and so many of our students take advantage of those courses. And I think flexibility seems like a smart way to move forward.
Great. You mentioned the medical center, and that's where we are today. It's a beautiful place. Most recently, you recruited Dr. Hal Paz to be the chancellor here of Health Sciences. It's really kind of the university's step forward in combining officially, the medical center and all of its assets and talent and research power, along with the 7 health sciences colleges. What do you see as the vision and the path forward from the medical center with this new leader?
Well, 2 things. One, we before Dr. Paz arrived, we had grown into this extraordinarily large, effective, impactful enterprise with about serving over 1 million patients a year as outpatients, doing an incredible amount of biomedical scientific research in a variety of fields, training people to practice all over this region and around the world. So great. As we were doing that and working in the health science, health research, health education, health service arena, all those things, we really wanted to have somebody who could lead us forward in those efforts first, and excited to bring Dr. Paz here for that. Second thing is that we have 2 things that many others don't. One, we have 7 health sciences colleges, so we have the major disciplines in health sciences, including optometry and veterinary medicine here on one campus. That's really unusual. The second thing we have that's, I think, ultimately, I believe, I see ultimately is even a bigger advantage, is we have an entire comprehensive university that surrounds the health sciences enterprise. So we have the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences, we have engineering, we have the dance and the arts, and we have social work. I'm not meaning to leave anyone out. We have this entire group of people, and if I think of the health status of people, we have the conditions that are amenable to health care, those things you can treat and make better. Then we have a whole bunch of other things that affect one's health status that are treatable or amenable by things that really occur outside the health services arena. So diet, nutrition, exercise, safety, substance abuse, a whole series of things that make you healthier or not healthier that are not from within the health services industry, but out in the broader world. So we have a whole campus focusing on those kinds of things, the economy of your community, early childhood education, all kinds of things that make a real big difference in one's health and life that we address on an ongoing daily basis in a context that allows our health services and health sciences research and health sciences education to take place in a more global and comprehensive way. So I think that's a big advantage that we have here for the future that allows us to be leaders going forward. And we want to do everything we can continually to integrate and take advantage of that opportunity.
That's great. When you think about the social determinants of health, as you were referring to, in looking at our staff and our faculty and our student populations here on campus, I think of Dr. Melnick as our Chief Wellness Officer. And how do we leverage so much of the talent and opportunity that we have here to help our own community be healthier in all the different ways?
We kind of want to walk the talk as we talk the talk and walk the walk as we talk the talk. And Byrne is great at that. She's great at talking the talk. She keeps it going. And I think that that we work as a great test bed. The policies and procedures and practices that we think of that help people to be healthier, we need to make sure we're doing those ourselves. They need to work for us. And if they work for us, we can illustrate why that's a good thing and continually spread the word and let others find the same. It's an ongoing battle to push toward those things that lead to healthier lifestyles and to avoid those things that lead to less healthy lifestyles. Why would anybody use a less healthy lifestyle? I read a series of studies once about the kind of World Wide Web and the social media and things that go around, and they looked at the believability and influence of things that weren't true compared to the believability and influence of things that were true. And they found that things that weren't true were more believable and more influential than things that were true. And it makes sense, right, in a way, because if you take something that's true, it's true. Just what it is. If you're making it up or changing it, you can enhance it to make it more believable or more compelling. Instead of the world record being 10 feet, you can make it 12 feet if you just make it up, or whatever the thing is. You can just add a bit to make it even more compelling, as if. And so that happens a lot online, that people sort of embellish or add or push or rephrase things to make them more attractive. Same thing for unhealthy behaviors. The unhealthy behavior has to be in the short term more attractive in many ways than the healthy behavior in order to induce somebody to do it. And so you have to really resist that, what looks like short-term health, short-term pleasurable, easy thing for the long-term benefit of being healthy and continuing to understand the temptation. If donuts it tasted bad, we wouldn't have to worry about them, right? I mean, donuts don't exist, except that they're really great. And well, I don't mean, again, not an endorsement of donuts, but whatever it is, that thing doesn't make it in the world unless it really has an attractive, it can be an attractive force for you. And moderating those things requires you understanding why you don't want to just eat donuts and nothing else. I see people shaking their heads. I don't know. So we have to continue to push against that, think about the long term, continuing to educate people, continuing to show how it works. And I appreciate having Byrne to be our Chief Wellness Officer.
So as we look at these transitions and changes happening on campus, it can be a stressful environment, and I'm sure your role is probably more stressful than many of us in this room can imagine. So as you think on a personal level, how do you incorporate wellness in what kinds of healthy decisions do you make to help you cope?
I don't eat donuts. That's what. A couple of things I tried. A great example in my father, better at this than I am, who was a collegiate athlete, and as you've heard the stories, and he was a national champion, captain of a national championship football team in the 1930s. I have his trophy in my office still today. A picture of him actually from a program. He was on the cover of the program of one of his games in 1935. So I have that picture up that I see every day. And he then left his collegiate athletic career, and went to medical school and practiced medicine until he was 99. Again, you've heard this story. And he believed in kind of balancing the two. So he passed away this time of year, passed away right just after Christmas, about 7 years ago. And my sister was staying with him, but she was visiting for the holidays, and I'd seen him on Christmas Day, I guess, and because we all got together. Maybe actually the day after Christmas, I'd seen him, and she was saying, "Gee, that he was having a little, not in a big way. She meant this was 15 seconds. That she said, he had a tougher time yesterday, and what she meant tougher time is that they lived on a cul-de-sac, and he in the summer would swim. My parents lived in Northern California and had a pool. My mother had passed away a few years before this, but they would swim, and they swam into their 90s, and then this was later, and they lived on a cul-de-sac, and so he by this time was still seeing patients, as I mentioned, but he wasn't so mobile, so he had a walker that he used when he went out, and he'd take his walker and walk around the cul-de-sac to do his laps, to make sure he was getting his laps in. And she had noticed there was a cold day there, and like the day before when he was walking, he'd walk part of a third of a lap and then sit down for a little bit, and get up and walk a little bit and sit down. So maybe he took a couple of pauses in doing his cul-de-sac laps. But the message that I had from him, he was 99 years old out doing his laps, and so I just always believe that it's important to stay dedicated. And he was happy and thrilled and whatever, and had been doing that work for his whole life, and then still keeping his intellectual capacity up. He played chess, and he kept on doing those things. So I just think it's been a good guide to try to be active and keep your mind active, keep yourself physically active.
Great. Well, thank you for taking the time to answer those questions. I know we promised to open up the floor to those in the room with us today for questions.
Yes, and if you'd ask questions in kind of a descending order, like the best person in the room will start with a high quality.
I think we have some with mics. If you have a question, feel free to raise your hand.
Okay, then maybe the second. Yeah, great. Second best person. That's great. We'll keep on going.
Second best.
Okay. Can we congratulate the best person in the room?
Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. Continuing on the conversation about health and wellness, you've placed this as a high priority in the last few years, and we really appreciate that. And I've worked in an academic unit for the last 8 years, and I've seen that mental health has become a growing concern for faculty, staff, and students across campus. 15% of faculty and staff have reported feeling hopeless or depressed in the last month. So as managers and staff are thinking about this and thinking about changing the culture in their unit, what advice would you have, taking into consideration making sure they're still meeting business needs with structured schedules and maybe not being able to leave and walk for an hour? But what advice would you have as we're thinking through this and that managers and staff can implement to change the culture of their department?
Well, thanks first very much for the question, and it's one of the pressing questions of our day. And you said 15% during the last month that felt that. I remember a generation ago, the number that we were using was that 25. It was medical students we were focused on at the time, and 25% of our medical students were clinically depressed during a given year. So there are lots of different data that we look at that show that it's not uncommon to have periods of depression or hopelessness that run through everyone for a long period of time. My father, I mentioned, practiced medicine for all those years. He was a psychiatrist. I grew up in a psychiatric family, older brother, a psychiatrist too. And so I would remember back decades the concept of mental health and what happened in my youth. Again, we lived in Northern California, and Napa is a place. If I said Napa, name something that you associate with Napa. I heard somebody say wine. That's a Buckeye audience. But exactly right. So the Napa Valley is famous actually worldwide for wine. And when I was growing up, Napa was famous because it was the site of the state hospital. There was the Napa State Hospital was the main mental health hospital in California, in Northern California certainly. And basically it was a warehouse. It was a place that people went when they had behavioral issues that no one knew how to address, and so this was a place where you were sent to Napa. And so we went from this concept of sort of warehousing and separating people whose behavioral challenges were such that they were unsafe to themselves or made other people uncomfortable and putting them out of town in a kind of a different town, to Freudian, Jungian psychotherapy, to drugs, to a whole series of things that we've tried to do to help people to manage the challenges that they have mentally. And as we've rolled forward, we see that some of them are managed effectively, but generally these are very difficult conditions to manage, with a few things that are true. One is that many of them tend to be cyclical. They tend to get better or worse over time. And a lot of our efforts at trying to help people avoid tragedy when things are at their worst are to try to get them from that moment, that hour, that day to the next day when things can start to improve according to the cycle. So we have a lot of things to try to catch people before they get to their deepest despair and help to support them moving forward until they can find a way forward. Broadly, we are doing what we can and have been working on this for years to reduce stigma, so that when someone is having a challenge, that he or she can actively seek help. One of the results of that, the effectiveness of that, is that more people are seeking help. As more people seek help, it tends to overwhelm the system. I'll use just the traditions I grew up with. There was one-on-one hour psychotherapy, great, often for weeks, months, or years. Effective when it was effective, but horribly inefficient. I mean, it's just not one-on-one for weeks or months. And so we are looking at, but that's sort of the gold standard then. So looking at other things that we can do to help people work with other people or with other treatments to move through these processes or the issues that they're facing in a more effective and efficient fashion is something we are actively working on. So I'd say a couple things then to answer your question. One is our own collective sensitivity about the issues that our coworkers and family members are going through is extraordinarily important. Two, an awareness of our own vulnerability and the fact that things can affect us, and that seeking help seems to be very, very effective in many cases, and that we should not avoid seeking help when it may help us. And then continuing to work together as a community to develop ways to be more effective and efficient in supporting each other. I have a Headspace app, just to say, that says, here's something you do. So it comes on, tells me things I should do every day. Take 5 minutes. I almost never do it. So, I mean, just to say, I almost never. It says take 5 minutes now and just kind of reflect carefully. And I just find that I'm always too busy, so it's really difficult for us to break the cycles that make us so difficult, make us so difficult for us to do things. But I think we just have to continually be intentional about those things.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you also for coming here and giving us this opportunity, and congratulations on your upcoming transition.
Thank you very much. I love learning. So that's great. That's the first thing. Learned.
Well, the question I have, I'm a little confused about some of the missions and the vision that we have here at the university and recent actions that have been taken. So I could just use some clarification. So I know that one of the wellness missions or goals is to become the healthiest university on the globe. And I know that one of our core values is that we are to conduct our business with integrity, transparency, integrity, and trust. And it just seems that recently we haven't been living up to that. And what I mean by that is that on November 1st, I went to the Health Benefits Forum, and a lot of us went to this meeting. It was a very full-packed house, and we were hoping to be given an opportunity to discuss the changes that just were announced for our provider network. And when we went to this meeting, instead of being given an opportunity to give feedback and to assert our concerns, we were literally told that the process was done, that the contract was complete, that it was a 1.5-year process. And For example, for my family, we got a letter that we lost our primary care provider that we've had for 20 years. His practice, they're all OSU trained. They're all OSU alumni. And when I asked him why they were being
Excuse me. Sorry.
taken off the provider plan, he said he didn't know. He said he got the same letter that we got that said they were no longer being providers for OSU.
Yes.
We also got another letter, most of the women got another letter saying that you can no longer see your OBGYN. And what was amazing to most of us was that we had no say in this process. To me, it was not transparent. There was no opportunity to provide feedback. At one point, the person from the health plan that was there, he told us that we explained to him that for some of us, there was an 11-month wait list to get in to see a new OBGYN. And at one point, he said that was normal. We explained to him that that's not normal. We also explained to him that to want, especially if you want to go and see a female OBGYN, the wait list is even longer. And a lot of us were to the point, one woman asked, she's like, how many complaints do you need? And he said, you can contact HR and let them know that you're not happy, but the process is done. And this woman said, no, literally, tell us how many complaints you need, because her entire office was being affected by this. I know many people that I've talked to are being affected by this. And it just gets to the point where the process wasn't transparent. My doctor, besides being trained by OSU, he is an official doctor for the U.S. Olympic team. He's an official doctor for the PGA Tour. He is the perfect physician to take care of my husband when he had numerous surgeries that he needed. And also to care for my son when he was injured running, because it's a sports medicine practice. And it's just really devastating to lose these excellent providers and not be given any voice in this. And I'm just curious. I understand you're the president of the university, but you're also a medical care provider. The ophthalmologist in you, do you feel that it's reasonable for a patient to have a 3 to 11 month wait list to see a provider? In this meeting, we were told, the gentleman said, we're aware that there are deficits in care within the provider system. And I just wonder why during that year and a half, they didn't take the time to fill those deficits instead of taking away our excellent providers. And it dismantled my faith in OSU.
Let me address some of those things, and I appreciate the concerns, and I don't see it from all different perspectives. I think that I heard about this for about a year and a half. I mean, I think that's about the period of time, and my questions at the beginning of the process of the network narrowing were just the things that you've raised. No one would have said to me that if someone said to me, we have an 11-month wait, I'd say that's unacceptable and ridiculous. That's offensive to me, actually offensive. So I think that's a ridiculous thing. I'd like to hear who said that and what he or she meant about that. We actually were informed, I was informed specifically, that staff changes were made already for to make sure to be able to receive the changes in volume that were likely to occur, and for just the reasons you bring up. So we'll look at that and see what that concept is. But that's I think unreasonable, of course, and so we'll look into that. And then maybe Susan, I know and I've had many of these conversations, so you could say a word about a few things. I mean, part of the we knew that some portion of our patient population was going to be affected. This would create other opportunities for others, and so there's sort of a balance there. But some of the things you mentioned, like an 11-month wait to see someone that doesn't square with what I'd not heard that before. That's something we'll need to address. But maybe Susan, a word if you.
Thank you so much for standing up and telling your story. I'm very sorry to hear it because that is not at all what the expectations are on the part of HR for how this was supposed to work or how it's supposed to work going forward. So I guess, for one, I would invite you to maybe reach out to me directly after this because I would like to hear more about it and have conversations very directly with the health plan to understand, how you were responded to at the forum and what exactly you're hearing and experiencing because we are tracking it right now, and it doesn't square at all with what I'm being told by the health plan around the data, the responses. We're being told that there are not these wait times, that central scheduling is working to make sure that people get in very quickly, actually, especially if it's for just a routine. If it's more of an emergency, it's really quickly, but even if it's routine, they're trying to work to get people scheduled with physicians. And so we need that information to be able to hold the health plan and actually our own medical center accountable. Because everything that I'm hearing is that our employees are going to be the priority. And that doesn't sound like that's the case. And so it's even disappointing for me to hear. And I would like to hear more and to be able to share your story and any others that you guys have.
That's another.
It's like Mike's coming over there.
So, President Drake, congratulations on your accomplishments. You spoke earlier about the development that's in the city, that there's certain areas where there's high investment, but then there's areas also where, things could be a little bit better.
I didn't mean, no, I meant to say that there are areas that are thriving and then there are areas that are dilapidated.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I don't mean it's close or it could be a little bit, I mean, it's
Well,
awful.
Well, that was my kind way of saying it. But,
Yeah, but it misrepresented what I would have
Yeah.
said myself. I just want to make sure.
well,
that
yeah,
we were
there
clear.
are areas that definitely need help.
Yes. that's
So,
better.
in regards to the university, is there a partnership with the city, or is the state partnering with the city to address these areas? Because it is, when you're driving around the area, I've been in the area now for 2 years, you do notice the dramatic change
Yes.
in neighborhoods.
Yes.
So, going forward, is there a partnership, or what's the outlook for that?
Yes, and so a couple things that I'm thinking when you say, so forgive me for interrupting your comments. One thing I was responding to is that you were being polite. And I think there's some things where if we're polite, they just go on without being addressed. And I think that they get the way they are because it was uncomfortable or whatever for someone to say, this is not acceptable. And so if I have a fear, if I have a fear in my transition, it's that we would be, as a community, too polite about things that are unacceptable. That's my fear. And so I want you to, when things don't look right, to say this doesn't look right to me. For instance, your 11-month wait, that's not okay. So my goodness, it's heartbreaking to hear such a thing. And so we have to make sure, you have to make sure to say that so that we can then take a look at that and see why you might hear that, what might be the case, and make it that that's not true. But we have to know, if we were to say, gee, the waits may be a little longer than I wish, that's not the same as saying it's unacceptable. It's 11 months. So anyway, I just would say that about our neighborhoods, that we have some that really do need attention, people in our community that really do need attention, and we have to continue focusing on them. What does PAC stand for, Katie? You remember? Well, I was asking Katie, because I wanted to put her on this. No, Partners Achieving Community Transformation. I knew that transformation was one and community was one, but I couldn't. Okay, great. So Partners Achieving Community Transformation is a partnership between, and thank you very much, I appreciate it, Elizabeth. It's a partnership between the university and the city and the federal government looking to revitalize neighborhoods and help to lift them up. But the university has been a major participant in this. I noticed it because we're having a reception tonight at the Pizzuti House to honor the work done by this coalition over the past 5.5 years. And this kind of work is critically important to us. We're a land-grant university. That means different things to different people. It means a lot of people think about what that meant in 1862 or 1870 when we got started. 1862 when the act was signed. 1870 when we got started. To me, it means that we're here for the benefit of our communities. That we're here to educate the sons and daughters of people from our region primarily, to be able to learn things that they can then apply to the economic development and health status and growth of our community as a whole. To learn those things that get that knowledge that lets us advance ourselves forward. Within that, we are connected to the community and responsible to the community to try to help it to do better. So our relationship with PACT, with Wineland Park, with a variety of things that we're doing are meant to help elevate those neighborhoods that have been left behind. And it's, I think, a critical part of what we do going forward. You all, though, are critical. There are a couple things that you do that are really critical as well. One, as you participate in civic activities, that's great. It makes a difference. Really helps people. Two, I'm a fan of voting, and electing people who share your values and then who'll actually be out there and move things forward. I think that's a really, really important thing. And I want you to all be engaged in doing USAC members are more engaged members of the staff, but I want for you and your colleagues to really be engaged in your communities and help to do those things that are necessary for us to move forward collectively.
Great.
We have was it one more? Do we?
Probably time for one
Yeah,
last
yeah.
question.
So we have two, so maybe we'll do a Rochambeau. We'll
It seems fair.
rock, paper.
Hi, my name's Sarah. I'm from the
Sarah.
Veterinary College, and I'm a member of CSAC over there. So our biggest question is transportation at the university. With us being such a large, land-wise, what do you see transportation in our community, or specifically the university, transforming to? Since parking's very limited, obviously,
Yes.
costs a lot. What is the vision, I guess, for the university in that aspect?
It's a great, and again, it goes back to a little bit of how do we interact with different neighborhoods and how do we interact with our community. So we have the Smart Cities Initiative that Columbus won a few years back now, and this is a coalition of city government, the private sector, and the university working together on transmitting into our normal, to the marketplace, into our world. Bit by bit, we're looking at different disruptions that are going to come in to help us get around better when we're on campus, but also ways to make it easier for us to get to campus from outlying areas. And those are a part of the ongoing development of the institution. And as I said, you see the construction going on now, but one of the very first projects is going to be a parking garage to be able to help with the convenience of getting to where people need to be. I want to make sure, although I know all of our managers are flexible in their schedules, that many people need to get actually back to work, and just thank you. This is a wonderful group. There are a couple of groups that I say this to. This is off the record, so I see the red light on the film, but don't quote me. But in this community, we have several groups of really outstanding people that I get a chance to interact with. So one, we have our Alumni Association. Our Alumni Association board is really terrific and more active than other places I've been. We really appreciate that. Our student leaders, I interact with very much, and they're very interested in solutions and getting things done. It's been a great group to interact with. USAC has been a great group to interact with from the very beginning. I know Andrew but your predecessors over the years are among the people who I've gotten to know best. We meet, we come up with an agenda. There are questions that are asked, approaches that are taken. So it's been great always to interact with this group, and I appreciate that. Also, I would say our Board of Trustees has civic leaders who are really interested in what happened at the university and are very, very involved in that, and some of them then become our employees. So it's, but this, I wanted to focus at this moment on USAC and just say that what a great group of connected, engaged co-workers you have been for me, and it's wonderful to see all the things that we've been able to do together. It gives me great pride when I look at the achievements that our university has been able to, the accomplishments our university has been able to achieve, and how much of that comes from the hard work that you do every day. So thank you very much for that. Thanks very much.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Drake, and you've been a pleasure to work with as well.
Thank you.